Hmm? Okay. So we will see something called as angular component life cycle. But make sure that you are very clear on the definition of a component. Well, what is component? Component is own template. Okay. Request for document is filled. Okay. Okay. So when you talk about what you can say, the life cycle, life cycle is all related to the life cycle of your component. Make sure that what do you mean by component? Component is the directive. What is component? It is a directive but with the template. So life cycle of the component and the life cycle of the directive may differ or may same sometimes. So not all the life cycle methods of the component are matching to the directive, right? So when you say component life cycle, when you say life cycle is nothing but the continuous callbacks of the methods. Life cycle is nothing but what? Callback methods. So it is calling the method in a sequential manner. First, what they have said, after creating a component by calling its constructor, after creating a component or directive, can you see? By calling its constructor, Angular calls the lifecycle hooks in the following sequence. That is very important. In the following sequence is very important. If you see this thing, after creating a component or directive, by calling its constructor, Angular calls the lifecycle hooks in the following sequence. Means what is going to happen internally? Let m is equals to my component. Let m is equals to what? My component. This is new my component. This is nothing but what? The constructor calling. Let m is equals to new my component. Angular internally does this thing. And then it just call m dot on init. First method it calls. Then ng do check. So there are several lifecycle methods. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 methods are there. Right? There are 8 lifecycle methods of Angular. And let me check 8 or what? 8, 1, 2. Yeah, 8 is correct. So these methods are, you are not going to call, these methods are going to be called automatically, right? These methods should be getting called automatically. Getting that? Who is going to call? Angular compiler is going to call. Why it is going to call? It is going to call with some purpose. Now see, likewise, for example, ng on changes respond when Angular sets or resets the data bound input properties. If you want to observe your property value is getting changed or not, which method you are going to use? Ng on changes. Remember that all these methods are wrapped inside what you can say interface. Now I'll show you that. Let me create the simple component. Right, let me open your project. Let me open your project, and here what we will do, Angular basic, and here let me open in the I would like to open it in the component. Some problem is there with the live stream. Okay, so I have opened the folder, this thing, open in the terminal, and you can say ng application. Which application? Lifecycle ngg application and lifecycle. I have created the lifecycle, right, and then what's happening, let me say no, and the CSS. So I would like to use the CSS but not routing. So lifecycle hooks we are creating. Now you'll get to know how to create the lifecycle hooks and other things. Okay, you'll get to know how to use the lifecycle hooks and other things, and then we will show you, I'll show you little demo. Now see what they are saying. Interfaces are optional. Every single lifecycle hook is wrapped inside one interface, which means that ng on init or ng on changes is wrapped inside one interface called as on ng changes. It is wrapped inside what? On changes. So if you remove the ng, it becomes the name of what? Interface. Like on changes, here you have on init, here you have do check, it is there. After content init is the name of the interface. If you precede it with the ng, it becomes method, right? Means after content checked. Now here you will get to know content checked, content init, view init, view checked. Now we have discussed what is view, what is content, right? Fine. So I hope project has been created, new project has been created. Well, I'm not importing any bootstrap or other over here. So what we will do, let me create one project, one component, ngc lyf lifecycle, ngc lyf hyphen project. Which project? Lifecycle. Getting that? And hit the enter, and what you will see, lyf over here, lyf.html is here, is a template file, and this is your component file. Can you see every new component is implementing on init? Every new component is implementing what? On init. What is on init? Is a life cycle interface. Well, it's not a correct answer. What is on init? On init is an interface which holds the life cycle method. Which life cycle method? On init. ng on init. Can you see? A callback method that is invoked immediately after the default change detector has checked the directive's data bound properties for the first time. See, not even it had said it is going to be called for what? Component. What it has said, it is going to be called for directives. But remember that component is nothing but what? Directive. So this is applicable for component as well. And that's why I told you the directive and the components are one and same. Directive is a parent. Component is nothing but what? Child. Because component is the directive with the custom template. Remember that. This is the definition of the component, and this guy clears that very precisely. This line clears very precisely. What's happening about live stream? Well, it's going good, but still it's bad. Fine. So core.ts, and here lyf component you have created, and let me import the. So for your convenience, I'm writing these things in a separate import. Well, that's okay if you write everything in a one, but for your sake of understanding, I'm doing these things, right? Well, it is absolutely not necessary. It is absolutely not necessary. So on changes, I'm importing it on changes, on init, then do check, then after content init, after view checked, sorry, after content checked, after view init, after view checked, and on destroy. These are the lifecycle methods. If you precede it with the ng, this becomes what? Lifecycle methods. Well, let's implement all. So on changes, then do check, after content init, after content checked, after view init, after view checked, and on destroy. Right now it is showing you an error, and that error is nothing but what? Yeah, implement the methods, I don't get it. So if you want to have ng on changes, you can write that ng on changes, sorry, on changes, just precede what? Ng on changes. And ng on changes takes one parameter that is called as simple change. Simple change is a class given to you by Angular to track the previous change and current change, right? I can say ch and simple change, which is from Angular core package. Simple changes, again from Angular core package, right? One method you have implemented. Immediately I can write console.log ch, you can print that ch, and here I can say one more log, I can write it, which would be saying ng on changes. Here also log, I can say ng on init, so ng do check, here you can say ng do check, here you can say ng after content init, so I can say ng after, sorry, content init, ng view init, ng after view init, let me copy this, ng after view checked, content init, you need to have content check as well, right? ng after content checked, then here you can say ng on destroy. So console.log, and here you can say ng on destroy. Getting that? So it's going good. This is also fine. Now what I did, yes, what's that? So we have implemented all the things, right? Now let us see what happens. Let me start the project. cd Angular app, right? cd Angular basic, and ng npm start, sorry, hyphen lifecycle project lifecycle. Getting that? Project what? Lifecycle. And till then, let me get this component inside app component HTML. Let me remove all of these, and here let's have the div, right? And inside that app lyf. So you are good now. Means you can dictate me the code, which means that you are practicing. If you are not practicing, that's your concern. Now it's loading, project is getting loaded, okay, working properly. So I can say localhost 4200 -p. When you start the project, ngserve your project name -p, one and same, right? Now see console. If you see this, ng on init has been called, ng do check has been called, ng after content init has been called, ng after content check has been called, ng after view init has been called, ng after view checked has been called. Remember that the check related methods are related to the change detection. Change detection. So what is a change detection? If the properties from the view are getting changed, and if the properties from the values of the variables inside TypeScript getting changed, that need to be mapped to each other. If I change the value, mobile number, right, and that is mapped with one paragraph. If I change the mobile number, the paragraph value should be getting changed. Who does all these things? Zone.js. Right? All those things are performed by the zone.js. And after that, it gives you some events like the ng do check. I have done my change detection. I have detected the changes, and it will call the check related methods. On destroy, see, you'll get to know. I'll write one code over here. So here I can say one div, and inside that button, and here I can say okay, and click, and here you can say CLK is my method. Or instead of having CLK, what I can do, I would like to have one variable visible, is visible, if the is vs. If these are the boolean variables, make sure that you will precede them with what? is. Make sure that you will precede them with what? is. Getting that? Is visible. Like that. Not the mandatory thing, but it's a good programming practice. So here I can say is vs is equals to not is vs. Not is visible. So star ng if is equals to is vs. Is vs. Getting that? So by default it is false. Now see, the on init and the on destroy methods would be getting called only when the component is getting added to the DOM and removed from the DOM. If it is getting added to the DOM, on init would be getting called. Yes, star ng if is what? Structural directive, which changes the DOM structure or the page structure. So when you click on the button, one inline function gets invoked here, right? This is the inline function, which changes the value of is vs. If it is true, component would be getting to the DOM. If it is false, component would be getting removed from the DOM. It is not getting added. Where is it been added? This is a button. Button is in app component HTML. So this is inside app component HTML. Right? This is the component, and here life works is the thing. Now if I look at the console.logs, okay. Can you see on init has been called, do check has been called, ng after content init has been called, ng after content check has been called, after view init has been called, after view checked has been called. Remember that this do check method would be getting called again and again, and that will considerably call the content checked and the view checked. Content checked and what? View checked. What we will do, I'll create two more buttons. Okay, and on the click you can call dt function, and here you can call say hi function. I'm going to say hi to the component. So dt and what? Hi. Two functions I'll get over here. So here I can say this dot title, whatever title variable is already available, is equals to new date dot to string. New date dot to string. Okay, on the dt function. Now let me go to this one, right? Let me have dt is of type what? String, and at input. This would be what? At input. So here you can say dt is equals to title. Now you will observe the life cycle. dt is equals to what? Title. So here I can say date and say hi would be the name of the function. Say hi would be the name of the function. Okay. Now you can first I need to add it. Now see, if I add, what happens? Earlier there was no input, right? Life cycle has begun from ng on init. If your component has the custom property, life cycle will begin from ng on changes, right? And see, then on init, likewise all other things are same, means this is same. But if your component is having custom property, life cycle will begin from ng on changes. Now see, if I change the date, see, on changes has been called, do check has been called, content check has been called, view check has been called. Means for every change in the input, the very value of a title we are changing, right? On the click of date, you are assigning new date dot toString, which is giving you the current date. Well, if you want to see that date you can go to the HTML, and here I can say what? DT. Getting that? Here I can say what? DT. So first I will add it. Right? First I will add it. Then ng on changes, on init, then do check, after content init, after content checked, after view init, after view checked. Remember that every change in the input property will invoke the ng on changes method. Every change in the custom property will invoke the ng on changes method. With, can you see the variable? Can you see the current value and the, is it a first change? No, it's not a first change. Then previous value. Earlier it was life cycle, right? And current is this. Is if you want to get what was the earlier value and what is the current value, you can track by means of ng on changes. Now where do you use it? Where do you use it in the project? You can use at the several places. Right? Means what? Consider that you have one balance amount. Right? And you need to check the earlier amount is a 10,000. Remember that earlier amount is a 10,000. So current amount should be greater than 10,000. Getting that? You have a check, some check kind of UI you have created, and you need to enter the amount. And this condition is that, what is the condition? Whatever value you are entering, that should be greater than the earlier value. Right? At that time you will change what? Current value and the previous value. Current value should be always greater than previous value. Otherwise that field would be invalid. Red color kind of thing. Getting that? At such situations you can use these things. Or in short, if you want to change or if you want to check, what do you want to check? The property change event. If your custom property is getting changed, and if you want to get certain event, that would be what? ng on changes. Well, now about do check, we have discussed. The check related methods are always called after the change detection. Now see, if you wanna observe, now see, if I click once more time on destroy would be getting called because that component is getting removed from the DOM. What's the condition we have checked? If it is true, make it false. If it is a false, make it true. Right, now let me add it again. And remember that ng on init do check, and observe that your projected content get initialized before the view. And that's why content child is not accessible inside the component. Your projected content get initialized before what? View. Are you getting that? Your projected contents is getting initialized before view, so that at content child will not work inside this thing. And that's why we use what? At view child. And to the at content child, it gives you undefined. Why? Because your content hasn't been initialized. Your content gets initialized after, your view gets initialized after the content. Remember that, this sequence. So view init and view checked are related to the change detection related to your view, and content init and content checked are related to the change detection completion of your content. Now make sure that you are very precise on the content and the view. What do you mean by content and what do you mean by view? What do you mean by content? What do you mean by view? Getting that? Any question you have on the life cycle? Well, life cycle is a little bit theoretical, but at many situations you will encounter that I need certain events. Means before destroying, I would like to show one dialog. Before you have a shopping cart related UI, and there is a cross button. If you click on the cross button, I would like to show, before removing the cart from the DOM, I would like to show one dialog. Do you really want to do this? Right? Where you are going to write? On destroy. Before removing the particular, well, on the cross button also you can write, but if you want to remove it from the DOM completely, you cannot see that again. You cannot assign the values to the state of the cart again. At the time you are going to write that on the destroy. If you are removing your view from the DOM and you need the confirmation, write it in what? On destroy. Remove it from the DOM means you are completely deleting, deallocating the memory. And if you want to have a user consent, write it inside on destroy. So lifecycle methods are there, and we have seen practically how these things works, right? Once again I'll show you. If I click on the OK, it would be removed from the DOM. ng-destroy has been called. See, this is a sequential life cycle. After the constructor, this would be getting called. So if you want to check that as well, to the constructor, go here, and in a constructor, here you can say console.log and constructor, I can say. Right, see, first constructor, as per the definition they have said, after the creating component by calling its constructor, Angular calls the lifecycle hook methods in the following sequence. This is the sequence and this is the sequence. Only one method remains, that is nothing but what? ng-destroy. If I click it, that will also